Hi friends, Budget 2019, the statement of the government, the financial statement as to how they will run this country economically and financially. I always hear the budget. Even before I was in the stock market, I used to hear the budget because I want to know how this country is being run financially. And this budget that has happened is a very special budget. And we have to look at it from two perspectives. There is an election coming in the next 3-4 months. Was it a populist budget? Are there policies here, which are going to change India in the next 10 years and 20 years? And how does this budget affect you and me? आपको और मुझे ये बजट कैसे अफेक्ट करता है? Thank you for listening to this video. You might be 18 years old, you might be 25, you might be 35, you might be 60. You might be a male, you might be a female. सबको ये बजट कैसे अफेक्ट करता है? How has this budget been presented? Let's take it one by one. 95% of the Indians do jobs in which their salary is less than 50,000 rupees a month. In the unorganized sector of India, the salaries are lower than 15,000 rupees a month. We have a whole big chunk of poor people who will never get any pension. We have a real estate sector that is under huge stress. So has the budget been able to address all these things? Then another thing that I have noted for years and years is that we have very so-called poor rich farmers who have incomes in crores and who do not pay any income tax here. So has this budget been fair to all? Let's see that step by step here. Okay. Number one, people who are doing jobs, lower middle class, people doing private jobs, people doing government jobs, small businessmen. So for all of them, this budget is a huge relief. Why? Because till 5 lakh rupees, now you have no income tax. Earlier, you had to pay income tax of 2,500 rupees. Now 12,500 rupees per year has been saved. And you can use this to spend wherever you want. You can use it to put it into an investment which will fund your retirement. So this choice you have for the first time, and 95% of the people are less than 50,000 rupees a month. In fact, up to 54,000 rupees a month, you do not have to pay a single rupee income tax. Cheers. That is the number one takeaway from this budget, that almost all of India who are doing jobs, earning salaries less than 54,000 rupees a month, you do not have to bother about tax anymore. Congratulations to you and congratulations to the government that gave you this budget. Now, who is the other part of the strata who is helping us make our buildings, who makes our roads, who are selling vegetables at the lower stage, who are in small villages doing small businesses and jobs? Have they been addressed? They have been addressed, of course, through the income tax, but there is one other thing this government has done. A human being cannot work after 60. The human body does not allow it. It becomes weak, but the person lives his life till the age of 85 and 90. As medical science is growing, so is our average age. But unfortunately, the joint families have now become nuclear families. So think of a guy who's making 10,000 rupees a month, working in the unorganized sector, maybe labor in a construction place. Does he have right now a fair chance of getting a pension after he is 60? And I think this for me is the biggest takeaway from this budget, that this for the first time has been addressed. Just by paying 100 rupees per month, I repeat, just by paying 100 rupees per month, he is ensured a pension of 3,000 rupees per month after 60 for the rest of his life. And I'm sure this is step number one. If you will go to all the countries who are now so-called developed countries, the European countries, the American countries, many Asian countries, it all started from here. We have to take care of our old generation. People who gave their life to build this country. After 60, they deserve dignity, they deserve respect, but more than that, they deserve financial freedom, money, so that they do not have to ask anybody for money. I think this is a step for me, because we have taken that very critical step towards building a new India where the old people do not have to look upon somebody for their financial needs. So this is another big takeaway from me from the budget, and you are listening to Pathfinder's trainings, guys. I'm Yogeshwar Vashishtha. You normally know me for the stock markets, but budget, whether you are for the stock market, you are into it, you're not into it, you should know what is the budget. Another very important thing you have to understand is the fiscal deficit. Heavy term, but for most of the people, fiscal deficit you should take care. There is revenue that the government gets from various sources, and it spends that money on government schemes and other places. The difference between the two is called fiscal deficit, and for the last 5 years I'm saying this is a very good trend, that the fiscal deficit is being contained. They have a target of 3.4% in the next 1 year. Until 2021, they have a target of 3.1%, which is the step in the right direction. So this is another one that is important to talk about. For 4 years, I was in Uri, working on the Uri hydropower project, where a lot of army people became my friends. I'm from Dehradun, where there is Indian Military Academy, and some of my very close friends are from Army, Navy and Air Force. And one thing I know is, if you and me are sitting safe and watching this Facebook Live and this video, it is because of the hard work all those army people are doing on our borders, keeping us safe. Every time I watch a movie, and every time that national song comes, I stand up and I make sure I'm the loudest to speak there, loudest to sing my song, because every time that song is played in the movie hall or other places, I remember all those defense people who every day, 24/7, 365 days in a year, they are taking care of us. And I think we have to do more to make sure their lives also become very good. The government has addressed this time. They have put in 3 lakh crore, the highest ever budgetary allocation for our defense. Hats off to that, and I'm sure this is just a start. You must have watched that movie Uri that came recently. I watched it 3 times actually. And in that, of course, it's a brilliant movie, but all that armor, those artilleries, those bombs, all those cost money. Do we have the best in the world? We are getting it. That's the good part. What I'm saying is, gradually the focus is going on the army, and it is a step in the right direction. There is one other area we have in plenty, in vast, but which has not been addressed yet. This budget had made one step towards addressing it. That is our oceans, our ports, our fisheries. For the first time, we have a Ministry of Fisheries, which will address the growth, the need, the challenges of 1.5 crore fishermen in India. So this is another area where a lot of growth is going to come, and this will not only bring growth, this will also bring in the employment into these sectors. Everybody cannot work only in cities. We have to create employment into the villages, the small towns, and this budget, has not addressed that. They have to work on creating more employment into small cities. They have to work on creating more employment in villages. And one more concrete step has to be taken. by which people can be very good in their small towns and villages without having the urge to migrate towards the cities. So maybe in the next budget, we will have this one. After demonetization, a step in the right direction, one sector where the cash flow or the cash component was very high was the real estate sector. So it was an unorganized sector, and the government introduced RERA, a very good step. But unfortunately, the sector is going down. The sector is bearish, as we call that in the stock market, and steps have to be taken to revive it. A few steps in this budget to revive that. Number one is, they have agreed now that the capital gain would not be on the second house, it would be in the third house. If the second house, after you have sold it, you buy the third house. That means two houses, you do not have to pay any capital gains. That is very good news, because most people, have two families. We are no more in joint families. Even in the same place, the father and mother, and they are living in a separate house. Children prefer to live in a separate house. So to make two houses tax-free, I think that is a great for the country itself, for all the people, and of course to revive the real estate economy. So that is a step in the right direction. Now, you had to pay a notional rent till 1,80,000 rupees of rent. That have now been increased to about 2,50,000 rupees, which will be a relief. Another step I remember from the taxation part is that now, a lot of expenses can be allowed. The limit has been increased from 40,000 to 50,000. So effectively, I was doing my own calculation. Till about 7 lakh rupees, we don't really have to pay any income tax here. Another thing is that GST is now being made more simplified. And now there is a composite scheme. This is one thing many people, many businessmen are not aware of, especially those who are in the 18% GST bracket, that now you can say, I do not want any input credit, and instead of 18%, you can pay only 6% GST, a composite GST, which will reduce your cost of doing the business. You can attract more clients because you can reduce your rates accordingly. So that's another good thing into the budget, but GST still needs to be more simplified. And we would probably require that the government gives much more clarity on GST. In fact, my dream is one day GST will become, so simple that the government will not have to take any income tax from anybody. And that is possible because we have the strength of numbers. We are 150 crore people. If everybody pays just 5% income tax or a 5 to 10% of GST, anything they want from us, we will have all the money that we want and without any corruption. So, these are all the issues that the government has been working on and going on. Now, another very important point for the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, is that the GST limit is not 20 lakh anymore. Companies who have turnover till 40 lakh rupees, they do not have to pay any GST. That means most of the small businessmen, they are exempted from paying any GST, which is another big step here. This government has thrived, and I'm sure many governments will thrive. I would like to clarify, I do not have any political inclinations. For me, any political party that is working for the good of the country is good enough for me. I was an NRI who came back because I was feeling very guilty outside, that I'm not doing enough for my country. And I will finish this by just saying one thing. Don't ask what my country has done for me. Always ask, what have I done for my country? So it was a very good budget. There's a lot of scope for growth, And I hope you have liked these presentations, and if you have any queries or questions, just put your comments on down and later on we will try to answer it. Thank you very much. All the best and God bless you.